Afternoon. Before we get right into Public Works, I know Jessica has a real quick HR item that we'll try and get out of the way.
Good afternoon, Jessica Warren, Human Resources. I'm here for IT. They're requesting a third summer hire intern student. I think they have a few that are interested in IT, so he wants to bring in one more to add to his two.
Yeah, I think this person is a returning person that they're looking at.
Yeah,
And he has
he already has two that he's been
right.
going through the interview process with, so we'd like to bring back the returnee and then also the other two.
You understand he has to work to keep them all busy, so.
I believe so.
Yeah. Any issues?
Can you explain just real quick their pay structure? How does that work? Do they have any benefits, anything like that? No?
So they're hourly employees. They're hired for a maximum of 90 days, so no benefits. They're paid $18.50 for brand new students and then $20.50 for returning students, and they're paid hourly. Typically they work full-time, but just full-time 90 days.
And so these are people that have IT or are in IT schooling and want more experience that we're bringing back?
So these are going to be two, one's not a new summer help, but two new to the IT program, but they're both going to school for IT.
Okay.
I'm good.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay.
Good afternoon, commissioners, members of the public. Savannah Clement, Deputy Director, Public Services. I have with me Sean Rowe, he's the Finance Manager. And we have a presentation today with Lauren Donnelly. She is with Millig. You guys have met with her and kind of a condensed presentation previously. And what we hope to do today is to do another high-level overview, kind of a summary to start with. And then we're going to go into some of the most probably important aspects of this project, aside from scheduling, which is the financial updates from the bids that we had turned in about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So I'm not going to do a lot of talking. I'm going to turn it over to Lauren.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. I'm Lauren Donnelly from Millig. I was last here at the end of January when we discussed the project. I think I've been here 4 times this year. So let's just jump right in. We have some great project updates for you. So we're from Millig Design Build. We are a full integrated mechanical, electrical, and plumbing design firm and general contractor. We specialize in working with public entities, primarily counties and school districts, also universities, community colleges, that sort of thing, to upgrade facilities and pretty much any engineered systems. So just touching on a reminder of kind of the problem statement about the Hall of Justice building. This building has very high annual operating costs. It's costs more than $200,000 a year in electricity alone to operate that building. And we also have really high maintenance costs. Comfort and code compliance, safety are a concern in this building. There's some issues with poor ventilation, poor temperature control. We have space heaters and individual AC units in almost every room or almost every office, which are oftentimes fighting each other and the central systems. And we have recalled Federal Pacific panels throughout this building that have stab lock breakers that are a major fire risk. So those need to be addressed. There's an obsolete and proprietary building automation control system. That's the Siemens system. That system has been in place since I think 2002. Which is a long time for a computer program to be running. It's no longer supported, neither the firmware nor the hardware. That Siemens system is an overlay on an older pneumatic control system, so compressed air to control most of the space level equipment like thermostats and terminal units. And so that system, there's oil in the lines, there are leaks. The control of this building, it's pretty much running kind of wild at this point. We also have a lot of failed and failing equipment. Last time we were there was a 2x4 holding open a set of dampers in the main air handler. We have clogged heating coils. We have some seized pumps for the perimeter hydronics. A lot of issues throughout that are kind of causing trouble in this building, I think you're fairly aware of. The project here that has been in discussion for a few years is an upgrade of the HVAC system and the controls of that system and the electrical upgrade. So the goals of this project were identified closely with the county to be lowering operating costs of that building, solving the comfort issues and making it having better satisfaction for the folks that work in that building, eliminating any of the critical life safety issues to make the building safe. We wanted to maximize the existing infrastructure so as to keep the first cost down as much as possible. We need to minimize construction impacts on occupants. This is an active courthouse. The sheriff's department is housed there. So there's been a great deal of thought put into how to minimize construction for the occupants. And we're also looking to maximize external funding. Anything that we're going to change the energy usage this much of a building, we can a lot of times tap into a little bit of extra funding to help us do that. We've been heavily engaged with the Public Works Department and the folks that work in the building. To date, we have about 3,000 hours spent on this project from Millig's end. We've spent over 200 hours collaborating with the county and user groups. We've been attending the monthly user group meetings since August 2024. We've had several departmental listening sessions, and we're planning a stakeholder engagement event, working around and with the folks that do absolute critical county services in this building is obviously a huge priority. Okay. So on the next slide, you're going to see an overview of the process. So this is a project that we're doing with in collaboration with the Department of Enterprise Services, where there's basically four main phases. There's the scoping phase, the development and design phase, the construction phase, and then the guarantee phase. That's like a performance period. The scoping phase that began in March 2023. That's where we did a preliminary evaluation, engineering evaluation of the facility, looked at multiple options, did life cycle cost assessment of multiple options, and of all the competing options for HVAC system replacement, and provided some preliminary cost estimating. We entered into an IGA contract in May 2024 that kicked off the design process that really kind of hit in earnest, August through December this year. A lot of user engagement, and then the bidding process in green there that overlaps the end of design. Now we're at the point where we're going to discuss the construction contract. So that's going to be a fully open book, guaranteed maximum price project. We talked about this quite a bit with the previous board members in the fall, but how this works is that it's more or less, it's very similar to a cost plus fee structure. It's through the Department of Enterprise Services. So everything's open book, everything is validated. So we take fees on top of actual costs of construction. We show timesheets, we show all invoices. We use all subcontractors to execute the work, so it's very transparent. Okay, so the next slide just shows where we are. We're here at the point where we're going to be presenting a construction proposal. Okay, so I won't spend, I'll just we won't beat around the bush, we'll just get right to it. We have had a fantastic process. We got very competitive pricing for these scopes, and I am so pleased to be here to say that we are under budget. I don't know how much you guys have been working through projects in the last 4 or 5 years. It is not every day it is not every project that we come in under budget. There's been a lot of price escalation, and so we're really pleased here. I get to be the person that comes and explains this to you all, but the team behind this, Anthony Borsellino, he's the project manager on this project. He's a complete bulldog. He has worked tirelessly to get this where it is today. And Dan Wen, that's the head mechanical designer. He has done a phenomenal job. There was a lot of strategic decision-making throughout the process that got us to this, which I'm excited to share with you. So in August 2023, after we did the preliminary assessment, we set, kind of in collaboration with the Public Works Department, we set the project budget for the HVAC controls and electrical at about $9 million. That budget was included in the 5-year county plan and was approved by the BOCC as a 5-year expense at that time. Since then, the scope has expanded a little bit, and we'll tell you what that is. And with the current market conditions, the inflation that we've seen, staying within this budget that was set in August 2023 was a huge challenge for our team that we've kept in mind and had our sights, that was our target throughout. On the next slide, you'll see our intensive pre-construction process. So we do a lot of work during design to make good strategic decisions. I can highlight a couple of those. Kind of between November and December, we made a couple of decisions. One was to serve the county courthouses through a rooftop unit. We had wanted to serve them with VRF in the beginning, but both the construction disruption to the courtrooms would be more excessive that way. And also it was a little bit of additional cost savings with going with a rooftop unit. So we made a change. We had to get a code exception to do that from the code official. They approved that. And we were able to get that through, which was a great strategic decision, both for constructability and price. We also were going to have the VRF system do the entire heating and cooling load of the building. There is a hydronic perimeter heating system that is a hot water, basically like hot water baseboard heating almost, to fight the load through all those single pane windows that you have in that building. We were going to just abandon and place that system, use the VRF to do it all. That required us to upsize it a little bit. We ran, cut them open, ran video. We scoped them to see what they look like. They're in great condition. And we decided to refurbish that system and keep it in place, which allowed us to make the VRF system a little bit smaller. And so there were a couple of design decisions along the way that really helped us get here. So that first step of the process is finishing the design, the equipment selection, writing the specifications, writing the control sequence of operations, doing a lot of iterative cost estimating throughout to drive that process. We engaged heavily with the occupants to understand their needs and develop a preliminary schedule. We also made a strategic decision. We had initially planned to start this work in the summer, but talking to our subcontractor partners, they have a lot of work. That's the peak of the construction season, and they have a lot of K through 12 work that they're doing in the summer. We made this strategic decision to push the start of construction to October. And so we could get a lot more availability of subs and better pricing because it's a little bit of the off season. So since this building is occupied 365, it didn't have to be in the summer construction season, and we're not opening up the roof or anything like that. So it can be done during the colder months, and that allowed us to get much better pricing from contractors as well. We did a lot of subcontractor engagement. You know, gone are the days where we could just put drawings out on BidNet and get good numbers back. That's just not how it works anymore. We have to really work with folks. There's not as many high quality subcontractors are very busy, and there's definitely a staffing shortage. And so people fill up their schedules very fast. We really spend a lot of time cultivating good trust. They need to believe that as the general contractor, they're going to have a really good experience on this project and it's going to be efficient for them. And we were able to do that. We held bid walks, bid meetings with each firm, and then bid walks. The bid walk was huge. There were about 60 people on the bid walk representing 10 different firms for 5 different trades. It was very successful, a huge level of engagement, really good drawings, really good schedules, really good plans. Then there's the RFI phase and addendums where we're helping people put together good bids. And then we do a really intensive bid review. So 2.5 hours per firm, per bid, to make sure there are no scope gaps, that we have everything covered. You're including your payment and performance bond. You're including your, you're gonna handle the permitting, or are we? And we go through and we figure everything out with every single person. We have a very complex, or a very large responsibility matrix of who's in charge of what. Go through that with all the firms. And then there's some slight changes in pricing and a little bit of negotiation. And then that brings us to where we are now finalizing the guaranteed maximum price and writing the construction proposal for you all. So I wanted to share a little bit about the firms and the scopes of work that they're doing. So on the mechanical scope, the mechanical is the single largest dollar value scope for this project. It'll include the full HVAC system replacement, new ventilation units, which are heat recovery ventilators, ductwork modifications. So we're keeping like 98% of the ductwork that's in the building that's currently delivers air through the main air handler. We're repurposing that for outside air. So we're replacing the reheat terminal boxes with these new air handlers. So there's a lot of modifications there, but we're leaving much of it in place. Outdoor condensing units and rooftop air handler, those all need to get craned up onto the roof. Refurbishment of the perimeter heating system requires new small boiler and some pumps. And then test, adjust, balance. So balancing and testing the wet side and dry side of both of those, all those scopes. We were able to add some scope and stay within the budget. The HVAC system for the old EOC and 911 area has been down for quite some time, and that space has been unused. The county is recarpeting, painting, refreshing that space. There was a different budget line item to replace the HVAC there. That got pulled into our project. We're able to take that and integrate it into the new building-wide HVAC system and still stay within budget. And finally, we were very much hoping to demo an eyesore. It's on the next slide. The exterior ductwork that sits on the road side of this building. We no longer need that. And so it's fairly expensive to cut that thing up and pull it off. And we were hoping we'd get that in the budget. We did, as well as demoing and cleaning out the other mechanical equipment, like the very large air handler, the old boiler, that sort of thing. Okay, so the mechanical contractors, JRT out of Vancouver, JH Kelly here out of Longview, and Harris Mechanical, also with the Vancouver office. They have a Seattle office as well. Millig has successfully completed multi-million-dollar projects with both JRT and Harris. Those include projects at the Washington State University, at Island County, at some school districts, and Spokane Community College. And the county has a great project history with JH Kelly, who's a really great firm. We worked intensively with all three. Harris Mechanical is the apparent winner. They have the lowest cost proposal. I'll also mention there were two union shops and one non-union shop. Harris is a union shop as well. Harris had really great engagement during the bidding process and with the plans. And we believe they have a very good understanding of the project. So we're very comfortable with them at the lowest price proposal. For the electrical scope really falls into kind of two main categories. There's a lot of distributed electrical throughout the building. And then there's some major, the main electrical distribution panels in the main electrical room that need to be replaced. These are all 1974. So there's a lot of benefits and safeties and protections that come with newer panels. So for the distributed scope, that means the panel replacements of all of those banned and recalled Federal Pacific panels throughout the building. I think there's like 42 of them. New electrical and mechanical, new electrical for the mechanical equipment that we're putting in, and then low voltage controls wiring that's sort of distributed throughout the building. And then there's the main electrical distribution panel and the emergency panels, and those are going to get rebuilt or replaced. So the electrical scope, we had actually four, I missed one here, but 80K out of Vancouver, Core Electric here out of Longview, and Hammer Electric out of Longview. Also, JH Kelly has an electrical group. They bid on this as well. So we actually had 4 firms bid on this. We've done successful work with 80K particularly. They were on our large project at Lewis County Jail, and they're on one of the big projects at Washington State University with us. 80K had the most competitive pricing for the building-wide distributed electrical and panels. Core had absolutely, they understand the scope, and they have the capacity here in Longview to actually build the mechanical panels, manufacture them here. And they are clearly the right choice, and also the best price on those big mechanical or those big panel replacements. I'll also note this is a place where some strategic decision-making during the pre-construction process really helped us. We had 3 or 4 different packages of work for these firms to bid on, both on the electrical, another 3 or 4 packages on the mechanical. That gave us more granularity into their pricing so that we could compare, and we could also have the option to purchase different scopes from different folks. For the most part, when people were lower, they were lower across the board. But in the case of the electrical, that actually wasn't the case. And so we can have the best firms kind of do what they specialize in and what they're best at. So again, Anthony and the team that put all this together made some really great decisions along the way. Okay. The other kind of other scopes of note include controls, ceilings, and asbestos removal. So for the control system, we have specified a non-proprietary building control system. It's on a Niagara platform. There's at least 7 firms in this area that can bid on and do future work or hold a maintenance contract with the county. That's opposed to your last system, which was a Siemens system, which was completely proprietary, and they were the only ones, and you're basically under their thumb for the duration of your system to only use them, or your warranty is voided. So we have an open non-proprietary system. The firms that bid on, well, actually, I guess I have that on the next, or a couple slides. The next scope is a ceiling scope. So this has been on our radar from the beginning, and we were very much hoping to get some scope in here. The ceilings are, first of all, they're non-standard size. Second of all, there's a lot of broken tiles, stained tiles. I think people smoked in that building for about 20 years. They're yellowed, and they're really kind of an eyesore. We were hoping, but we actually didn't originally have any ceiling scope other than just repairing any ceiling tiles that got broken during the part of construction. However, because bids came back so strong, folks are competing to do this work here. We have included in the budget all new tiles, so tile replacements, and cleaning and painting the existing T-grid white. So it'll really give it a much brighter and lighter kind of a refresh in the building as well.
Lauren, you're on a good roll, but I just wanted to also mention the reason for replacing the tiles wasn't merely like aesthetic, like obviously it would look great refreshed, but when they're in there doing all the construction work, they're removing them anyway and having to replace the old ones up. So an advantage of that is the work's already happening, the labor. How could we take advantage of that with our already cost savings being under bid to replace those? Because we're already taking them down and putting them back up.
That's right. The new equipment's going to go above the ceiling. So in many of the offices, we have to remove the first 2 rows of tiles or 3 rows of tiles in order to get the new equipment and diffusers and that sort of thing in there in the first place. So with them down.
It is not asbestos. None of it's
They
asbestos.
are not asbestos, thankfully. We would have to remediate all of that. And although they're non-standard size from 1974, they are still available on the market. So we can source these tiles as well. The last scope is asbestos. That was a great question. Where is it? It's primarily pipe insulation. That's how it's going to primarily interact with our project. There is a 3-story pipe chase that you're looking at here. looking up into. The piping in this pipe chase does have asbestos. It's not that much, but it's difficult to remove simply because of the conditions. You're literally on a ladder, 2 stories up. And so it's a bit of a challenging project, but it's not a huge piece of the budget, but something that we're gonna take care of while we're there. Okay, so for the controls, we had 2 great firms that we've worked with on many projects in the past, Sound Energy Systems out of Castle Rock and Harris Controls, who is a sister company of Harris Mechanical. Sound Energy Systems did the controls on the VRF system for the Lewis County Jail, among other projects with us. And Harris Controls has done controls for us at Spokane Community College, Island County, several other counties. So Harris has actually offered an additional discount because they will have some efficiency to winning both the controls and the mechanical. So they have a great understanding of the project, and it's going to be a really cost-effective way to get this work done. For the ceilings, again, this was added scope that wasn't in the original budget. We didn't know how much we were going to be able to do, but we're very pleased to have some, and it'll provide a major facelift for the building. I will note, and we'll talk about this, I'm about to show you numbers in just a moment. We are investigating what it would be to just take all the ceilings down and put them all up new instead of cleaning and painting the T-bar. What is the price differential to just go ahead and replace all that? There is a little bit of money in the budget, you'll see, and there are some good reasons to do that. The existing tiles or the existing T-grids, that's the grid that holds the tiles in them. A new one would be seismically supported. The old one from 74 is to the code that it was built to in 74. Plus there's a few places where it's sagging, and when we paint it, it'll look great, but that's not the same as when it all comes in new. So we're working on still kind of a adder cost if there's interest in going all the way and replacing the tile. So we'll show you that soon. Asbestos removal, that's added scope. Again, we didn't have in the original budget, but we're pleased to be able to get in. Okay, so we are still working on the final numbers. That's why you'll see a lot of zeros. Everything's kind of rounded off, but we're very close. So what this looks like is Millig will provide a guaranteed maximum price. That's for all of the design, project management, construction management, full-time site superintendent. We're going to need 2 site superintendents on site almost for the entire duration of the project. And that's due to the fact that it's an occupied courthouse and we're going to be working into the evenings and sometimes on weekends. We have that all covered as well as permits. And that's all of the sub costs. All of that is completely open book. So we will provide so our guaranteed maximum price, so our contract value would for that amount. The county will have to pay taxes and some fees on that amount. That's the $750,000, which gets us into an all-in, just a hair under the $9 million budget, which was I won't call it a miracle, but it was a labor of love, a lot of work to keep it under that $9 million. This project will generate nearly 1 million kWh of energy savings per year. That will be eligible. We've been working with Cowlitz PUD for about the last 7 months. They've reviewed our calculations. They've gone through our models. They have given us preliminary approval that they will fund this project to the tune of about over $300,000 as a utility incentive. There's also a thing called the early adopter incentive. That is kind of a long story, but Washington has a Clean Buildings Performance Standard. If you get your building to meet that standard prior to the date that you're required to, you can apply for an incentive to help you do that. So we will apply for that for you. That may be as much as $260,000. Could be a bit more than that. There's an added bonus for additional energy savings, which I believe we will qualify for, but I use the more conservative number here. That has a net cost, that results in a total net cost of 8.375 to the county after all that's back. And then we are also looking at ongoing year-over-year annual utility and maintenance savings of over $100,000 associated with the project. So that's how the financials came together. If there is an additional 150,000 or 200, 300,000 to fully replace the tiles, maybe that fits into the budget. That's going to be completely up to you guys. Right now, we kept it kind of lean, and we wanted to make sure that all in was under your budget. And then the money that you'll get back later will help offset that. So we can stay there. The next slide is about the next steps for the project. So we can go back and talk about any of the scopes. The Public Works folks recommended I have about 15 minutes. That was probably about 18. So I tried to keep it high level. I know I talk fast, but we can go back and answer any questions or and kind of talk about what happens next.
No, let's do questions.
Great.
On the fourth slide, problem statement, high annual operating costs. Excessive annual maintenance costs. Where did you draw the line? What's excessive and what's acceptable?
Of the maintenance costs.
Yeah,
So the maintenance department has tried, I can let these guys speak on that. I believe they've tried to calculate how much the annual maintenance costs are of the building, and it's a lot.
Yeah, I think when we pulled these numbers, which would have been, I think, 2023-ish for the prior year, and I didn't bring it with me. Do you recall if it was, I thought with, in addition to the energy consumption and that cost, I think we were thinking, am I wrong, at 600,000? I hate to do public guesstimating, but we can send that to you.
We
well, I
can
don't
follow
care
up with
what the number
actuals.
is. I'm asking you what the definition of is acceptable versus excessive. Where did you draw that line? How did you establish what the normal cost should be?
Yeah, there are
Yeah, I didn't make
entities
that.
like ASHRAE, the American Society of Heating, Ventilating Engineers. They have, there are tables that say if you have a boiler, you should get annual boiler maintenance, and you have to also get it certified. And so there's an annual cost to that. Per air handler, there's a cost to that. For a large air handler, it's this. For a small air handler, it's this. So we routinely estimate typical maintenance costs from national databases. And this is very excessive in comparison to what a typical facility of this size would cost.
So they would have numbers on what they expect normal maintenance costs would be on a 50-year-old building?
Not on a 50-year-old building, on a building with a boiler, with 2 boilers and this many air handlers and this many terminal units and this many. So it wouldn't be a 50-year-old building. That's right.
So they're basing it on new standards for today's, if it was a brand new building and you built it that way?
I would have to reference an engineer. I believe that they base it on the current American building stock. So most of the guidance information, for example, the life expectancy of a piece of equipment is published by several different entities. ASHRAE is one of them that we use a lot. And it would be, a grouping, an average lifespan of a grouping. So not necessarily a grouping, a lifespan of a building from 1970 or necessarily one from 2025. But we can get you more information on that for sure.
Okay. Will the new system for your HVAC system, is it going to have any type of pneumatic controls, or is it all going to be electronic?
The pneumatic controls will be eliminated. It will be all electronic.
Do you need to run the new controls where the pneumatic lines are now?
I believe that those will be pulled, and they'll run new controls wiring. I don't know where it will be. It will be above the ceilings, and there's not going to be any conduit. It won't be visible at all. It will be above the ceilings and running through existing chases.
Okay, and I think you said the new HVAC system is going to be on the roof?
There's going to be outdoor units on the roof. So that's outdoor condensing units, similar to, this is a heat pump based system. So there's inside units that provide the heating and cooling, and then the refrigerant lines go outside to outdoor units where heating or, it's discharged to the atmosphere.
Okay, on that basis, I think I understood you say there's not gonna be any roof penetrations?
There
Did I-
is
did I miss it?
already some roof penetrations, and my understanding is that we are reusing the existing roof penetrations. Right now, there's a cooling tower and some small unitary equipment on the roof, as well as a very large ventilation duct. My understanding is that we're reusing, but I can get you information if there's any additional roof penetrations that are pre-existing.
Okay, so if we abandon the pneumatic lines, is all that just gonna be cut off and left in place, or are you gonna remove any of that?
I don't know the answer to that, but I will get it for you. I assume we're removing the pneumatic lines, but I won't, I will get that information.
Okay,
On that same slide, you've got comfort and code compliance issues.
Yes.
Is the only thing that we're out of compliance and code are the electrical panels?
Yes, the ventilation is not currently controlled with really any relationship to how many people are in the building. Last time, like I said previously, the dampers were held open by a 2x4, so it's however much air is being brought in through the amount of space that the 2x4 holds open. Those actuators may have been fixed at this point, but again, they'd be controlled by a pneumatic system that is compromised, to say the least. So is it responding properly and providing proper levels of ventilation air? Not clear, but we have had some mold remediation that needed to be done in this building and a lot of complaints about it being stuffy. So I think we have some reason to believe that the ventilation may be outside of code standard as well.
And is there anything that's going in here that is proprietary? I know you're removing the Siemens panels that were proprietary. Is there anything that would be going into this that is?
Well, not in any, not that I can think of in any way that's meaningful. I mean, there are manufacturers, the VRF system and the air handlers are their specific manufacturer. So you will have to pay attention to those warranties that come with those large pieces of equipment, but they're major, they're kind of one of the 4 large firms is what we've specified.
So we don't have to worry about waiting for somebody to come out here because they're the only ones that have to do work on any part of it.
That's right. No, everything is very much designed, and all of the firms that we've worked with in this bidding process are within 60 miles of, so the people that installed your systems are long-term, kind of good upstanding firms in the community that can also, that can also be your maintenance contracts into the future if you like them.
is most of this stuff things that our maintenance people now could be trained on? I mean, for the basic operation, they should be able to maintain it on a daily basis unless something major crisis happens.
Absolutely. So the project as it stands includes some sessions of training for operator staff, which we videotape. So we do a videoed training session. I also our controls and commissioning folks do a fantastic job. I can bring in an example if you'd like to see of systems manuals. So the systems manuals say, here's when you need to change the filters. Here's when you need to, flush this. This is the date you're going to need to recertify this. This is how often you should check the refrigerant charge. It's all laid out, and we also we'll do a 12-month workmanship guarantee. We have in the budget right now just 12-month, or whatever the manufacturer's standard equipment warranty, but that can always be extended, and that's just like with a car or anything else. You just have to purchase that. But right now they all have warranties. But our 12-month workmanship warranty, part of the energy savings guarantee says that Millig is going to guarantee that you meet those energy savings. If the building fails to meet those energy savings, we write a check for the amount of the shortfall. And so it's really imperative for us, we have full ownership of the project and we are contractually responsible for the delivery and performance of that building. In fact, the contract will state that temperatures need to stay within a certain range inside the building for us to meet our performance guarantee. Ventilation rates have to meet code standards. So we stick around a lot in the first year. We'll do seasonal commissioning. So if the system's all fully installed and running by March, well, it hasn't been through the heating season yet. We gotta come back and we gotta look at it again, you know, in June, July, August, and make sure that it's operating well in the cooling season. So we have seasonal commissioning built into this, and we also have, staff training. We're really, really supportive. You can ask Lewis County. We are, Anthony's on their speed dial. They have an issue. They call him up and FaceTime and look at it and they fix it, or we come out.
Is that just for the 12-month guaranteed time? Like, for example, if there's a warranty on a piece of equipment that is longer than that 12-month, do we deal with the manufacturer or do we go to you guys for that?
That's a great question. We provide you in that systems manual who you go to for each one. So usually it's the mechanical contractor that installs it has their own warranty for a certain period of time. And then the either the manufacturer's representative, so maybe it's Johnson Barrow in this area or someone else, then you'll go through them for manufacturer issues that are outside of the subcontractor's warranty period. But we provide all that information and also help support you with those, like we can help build, provide you with the language that you need to go get. For example, we had an issue out at Spokane Community College, not getting enough air out. We did the test and balance, airflow is low out of a brand new air handler that we put up there. Checked everything. It's a fan issue. The manufacturer, they didn't want to replace. They said, no, it's a duct issue. It's this. So we collected a whole bunch of other measurement, provided all that information so that they can go. And yeah, it takes sometimes that one took a few rounds of arguing with them to make them step up and pay for the thing that was their problem in the first place. But we were able to document, that the fan housing was misaligned and it wasn't working properly. They came out and they fixed it.
So what I'm hearing you say is that for that first 12-month time period, you're at our disposal for whatever
That's right.
goes on with the system.
That's right. And there's always things. There's always things. And we have a whole group of folks that support that. We have a Kevin Player. He's fantastic. He's Anthony is fantastic. We have several people that become very close with your facilities department.
We done with that slide?
I'm done, yeah.
On the next slide, eliminate life safety issues.
That's right.
Can you detail what some of those life safety issues are?
Just the panels, the recalled Federal Pacific panels is what that refers to.
Okay.
And upgrading the electrical system with additional safeties and switchovers and cutoffs and relays. We're also replacing the emergency panels. The emergency panels that control the emergency generators are from 1974. We're replacing those. So the new panels will have additional safety trips and components that they didn't have then. And we're also going to get rid of those banned Federal Pacific panels.
Okay. I guess the only other thing I can remember I made a note on was on the last page or next to the last page on the financials.
Yes.
There you go, that one. Annual utility and maintenance savings estimate of $100,000 is obviously based on today's electrical rates.
That's right. Not escalated.
And today's dollars.
That's right.
Okay.
So if that's, 10 years from now, that 100,000 is what, 130,000 or.
So if you're going to be back measuring efficiency of the units, you're basically looking for energy lost, but not dollars lost.
The guarantee is in dollars. So the energy savings guarantee on this project. So I think this 100,000 is very conservative. The energy savings alone is about, like, I think it's 70,000. So we only have 30,000 of maintenance savings, which we know is significantly more than this. We don't like to, we're conservative, we're engineers, so we didn't kind of overplay that too much. It could be quite a bit more than that on the maintenance side. On the energy savings side, we guarantee a certain amount of kWh are saved. How the guarantee works is X amount of kWh are saved at today's utility rate. And we all enter into agreement because the utility rate will change in the future. So you have to continue to save that million. So million kWh. So right now that's worth $70,000. Next year it might be worth $75,000. The year after that, it might be worth $80,000 and so on.
On the maintenance savings, what's your baseline to determine that?
Again, that is some data that was gathered during the process of working together. We've been working really closely with Jason and the maintenance department. So we have some actual specific invoices for things that have occurred that had to be fixed. I think they're, and so, eliminating those recurring ongoing costs. We know some of those things. There's a lot of things we don't know because they're one-offs. Oh, we had to flush this line, or we had to do this thing, and or we had to replace that actuator. It's really hard to total that as an annual average. So we just took some things that we knew were happening.
So Savannah, is that estimate based on the cost to purchase equipment, or does that include man hours?
So when we first started and which is why I had a hard time remembering, Commissioner Farrell, as far as dollars go, when we first started this project, to just kind of give them the information, we provided utility bills for a year. We provided any of our ongoing maintenance costs. We provided all of our Siemens bills, which are very high because they are the only firm we can use for that system specifically and others. So we kind of gave them all of that information. And then they came back with kind of our proposal back to us, telling us, here's all your costs, and kind of line item, which we knew because we have access to, but they were considerable, which I would still like to send to you guys, just so you guys have an idea of kind of what those original numbers were we're working with, and then plus what we've been doing moving forward. Hopefully that answered your question as far as how we came to determine that. Okay. I did want to, since I've got my mic on, I did want to talk about a little bit about kind of the code compliance issues. And when, Lauren says comfort issues, I feel like that kind of sounds like a luxury item, like we're concerned about people's comfort. To me, it's actually, it was so excessively hot or cold in that building specifically that we had several L&I complaints. And we had site visits with L&I because of folks in that building and the temperatures. And we actually currently haven't had a lot of complaints, which is fantastic, but we made a lot of changes in facilities when we kind of took over in public services. And that also includes people physically going to the Hall of Justice with temperature guns on forecasted hot or cold days prior to people coming in the building to ensure the comfort, right? Which is more so of making sure it's not so drastically hot and cold that people can't function. That's what we've had to do to kind of avoid those types of situations, in addition to the space heaters and the air conditioner units, and to try to control that and mitigate that until we can get a new system going. So that was just one of the things I wanted to add on the whole comfort thing, because I think it's a little misleading just because it sounds like a nice word.
No, I appreciate that. In my conversations with people over there, one of the other issues that they were having is particularly in courtrooms where they have juries and the room's full of people. It was so hot, it was affecting a lot of the people, the outcome of some of the juries, because they just wanted to get out of there.
Wow.
And that was not a good thing.
Another thing I wanted to kind of add. Oh, sorry, did you have a question?
Well, I
Commissioner?
had a couple things, but what do you want to cover?
It was just talking about how hot it gets in there. We actually did ask in the beginning stages about the windows. I think face value, people are like, well, replace those windows, get something more energy efficient. It actually wasn't cost effective, believe it or not, to do that. So we did not go down that route with this project because, yes, it would be great to have new windows, but it wasn't an energy savings that would amount to moving forward in this project. So that was one other thing I wanted to note. And another thing you don't see on here, which I'm a little disappointed about, is upgrades to lighting. So getting rid of all the fluorescents and getting LED lights, which will also be an energy savings. but we did not get the grant that we applied for to pay for that. So it's one other thing that's kind of missing from here that's, I think, an obvious energy savings when people think about it. So I just want to make sure I pointed that out, that we did go down that road. It didn't make the project, so.
That's right. We wrote a grant for the county's behalf and turned that in January. We ended up not winning the grant. We were a great candidate, still don't understand why. There is another grant in September, August preparation due in September that we can apply for the LED, to get the LED lighting funded. That grant funds 75% of the project value. We went after one in January that would have covered 100%. If we don't win the one in September, we can go again for the one in January too.
I know you probably don't have this, but did we preliminarily look at what the energy savings would be if we switched over to LEDs in a building that size?
I can get that for you. We have that.
We have that for our
information,
grant.
Yes. I don't
Yeah.
have it right in front of me, but we have it. Utility rates aren't super high, so it's not a very quick payback item. However, we really wanted to do it with that. I told you that we're going to come back and tell you what it'll look like to replace all of the ceiling grid, to just take that. If it's a difference of, a fraction of a percent of contract, if it's $100,000 to go that step further. And we'll also show you what the LED lighting would do in case there's an opportunity to fit that in.
What are they right now? All fluorescent?
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they're basically, they're built into the suspended ceiling now?
The fixtures can be retrofitted with LED tubes where we would remove the ballast, which that has you have to replace that every few years. And then you have to replace the bulbs. So the bulbs get replaced with LED tubes, and then you take the ballast out and you put in an LED driver, and that allows us to use the old fixture. The more spendy, but gives you a much more modern look, is to actually replace the fixture. A little bit higher price point to get a whole new fixture in there. We would replace all the lenses. You might have seen in some of those pictures, the lenses are very yellowed. Even just putting new tubes and lenses in old fixtures can really give a really good facelift and make it a lot more better light quality for the people doing the work. And it's just kind of welcoming. So
Right now, when we replace a bulb, do we just put in an LED bulb?
I don't believe so. No.
Why not?
I think it's because what's standard there. If you take a tour in some of the areas with different bulbs that have been replaced over time, it's like, specifically in some of the
different.
judges' chambers, it's yellow,
Different
it's different
White.
lighting. So we're trying to stay consistent with our consistent brand that we have. That's not to say that we couldn't change them all over with LED bulbs at any given time. I mean,
Well, I'm sure not all the lenses are yellowed the same color anyway, so,
probably not.
okay.
I know Commissioner Dahl had,
What was the grant amount you were going for?
I think it was $700,000.
Mhm.
Do all the lighting?
Yeah,
Mhm.
but that would be in that was gonna pay for 100% of it as well. And there is probably some efficiencies if we do it with the ceilings and doing it at the same time as everything else. So maybe it comes down a little bit from that.
Do you know if any of our work with USDA, if there'd be any possibilities there?
possibly, I can reach out to our contact and ask.
Well,
be a-
let's make sure we take that cost back when we talk to them back
Okay.
there.
And
On
if
your
we-
money back guarantee,
Mhm.
the energy savings, you said you'd write a check. Have you ever written a check?
We have not had to write a check. We got close one time, but we will work hard to fix it. We will work hard to figure out what that problem is so that we can say that we've never written that check. Sometimes we've paid for more than what the check would have cost to make sure that we get to that energy savings so that we don't have that sort of, so we don't have to say that. We will gather the utility bills every month. We'll check them. We'll track them against a projected amount of where we're supposed to be. If 3 months in, we're not seeing what we wanted to see, we'll come back and investigate and figure out what's wrong. And we have a year to kind of figure that out before it ever gets to that point. So we always get ahead of it.
I think we
Capacity,
would prefer the long-term energy savings than a one-time check also.
That's right. That all owners would.
Yeah.
For sure. And like I said, sometimes it's even a lot of labor to like chase down a problem or figure out what's wrong. The guarantee does have, it'll have some assumptions. You'll see about the hours of operation. So if you dramatically increase the hours of operation, that there would be an adjustment based on that and things like that. If you turn the third floor into a data center, that would use a whole bunch more energy, and that would have to be incorporated in there. So we document in detail, kind of all the details of the existing facility. And then, yeah, it's all pretty straightforward, but it's savings at the bill.
Yeah, I was just trying to see, if you're gonna offer that, you must be fairly confident that you're gonna be able to make it.
We do, and this is what we do all the time. It's really part of the overall package of being able to own the project from design through construction, that we can be able to say some of those things that's can't commonly be done.
Do you know if we do decide to go with the lighting on the subsidies that we see there from the PUD and the EAI, would those increase?
The early adopter incentive would stay the same. That's based on square footage, but the utility incentive would buy down a portion of that project cost. Yes, maybe 10%, 10 to 15%, I would say, of the installed cost.
Utilization of, let's talk the building. You have a building, we get it to the point where it's comfortable to operate in, and it's better with lighting, heating, cooling, all that stuff is working now. We have capacity to sit in that building for a while?
Oof. Is
That's a
anybody
hard
from the Hall of Justice online?
Good question.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
I think,
are we seeing dramatic increase in court cases, or are we seeing
yeah, I could
we're
only speak to the
moving-
building.
OPD over here,
Mhm.
so we won't have that pressure over there?
Mhm.
I don't see a big growth in prosecutor's office. Are we
No,
seeing
I mean,
anything?
not that's on my radar, but again, I would only look at it through facilities. I know that's a safe answer, but from a facilities lens, as far as what goes on with the courts, it's so at the whim of the state and federal, mandates and requirements. And we didn't see the public defenders thing coming either.
Well, I was on jury duty for 2 weeks, and I think over that 2 weeks, there may have been 2 or 3 court cases.
Mhm.
So and I don't want to speak for the courts, but I'm guessing that it'll hold the capacity we're doing. I just don't know how far out.
Mhm.
And the building is brick and probably iron beams and all that stuff. So I don't think building wise, even if it's not the modern style, it's in danger of collapsing anytime soon.
No, not at all.
No.
No, it's got, the bones are good. It's not that old. I mean, 74, it's not that old. It's really not. Yeah, we evaluated, we've talked a lot with the courts. They're able to condense their court schedules a little bit and move some things around to accommodate, to give us the building during certain hours and days to do construction. So we know that there's at least some amount of excess capacity for the courtrooms. Currently,
Okay.
like a
Well, that's good to
significant.
hear.
And Commissioner, I'm
Glad to hear
actually,
that.
I'm meeting with Judge Hahn next week, so we'll have this conversation and I
Yeah.
can report back to you. But we also,
You probably get a
Savannah-
different answer from the judges than you will.
we took a tour of the building and we had Judge Hahn go through and show us some of the issues that we might be able to fix, some of that low hanging fruit to make things more accommodating for them. And have we gotten any results from that yet?
And that was for the Callis 2 walkthrough with
Mhm.
Risk. I believe that we as in facilities are working with Scott and Risk and kind of some punch list items that Derek at the Fire 2 have given us as some to-do items. So yeah, that's moving forward. As far as the lower hanging fruit items and the more expensive items, we'll have to come and kind of workshop and bring to the board. But yeah, I think there's some flexibility there to get some of these things done. Adding more space is always going to be challenging. So we're really trying to utilize spaces the best we can there. And it's really been a learning curve for us as a team, knowing what's out there, who occupies what space and where we can move people. And it's slow progress, but it's progress. We're finding space for OPD at the hall, which they've never had. We're kind of rerouting some storage and doing some facelift items with carpet and wallpaper removal. I mean, so
Well, if you're putting some units down back in the old 911 and making that a usable space
Mhm,
again, that's
mhm.
quite a bit of area
Yeah,
down in there, so.
yep. It'll have new
My-
heating and cooling.
I'm working off the assumption if we make this a comfortable place to work, that it's gonna be, it'll handle capacity for, I don't know how many years, but out there long enough to recover what we're putting into this thing.
Mhm.
I would also say on that, you know, as we expand, we may need to look at the third floor of the building as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
one thing that we don't utilize it anymore,
At all.
and you could put some dollars into that. Well, that's probably a good point. When we redo all this, then all floors are gonna they'll be comfortable.
The third floor has some minimal upgrades, actually. Kind of early on in the process, we decided to not invest significantly in the third floor
Okay.
as it is unoccupied and doesn't have immediate term plans. Right now it has an air handler that is on pneumatics. That's going to get pulled onto the control system. It has a hot water coil, which is going to continue to be served by the new boiler that's going to serve the perimeter areas and the reheat coils in the courtrooms. So it will have it, and then it has, there's an addition that has some unit ventilator, or has some smaller fan coil units in there. Anyway, the third floor is heated, cooled, and ventilated. It has the capacity for that. But obviously it is arranged as an old jail, and it is kind of dingy and dark, and there aren't a
Yeah.
lot of windows and things like that. So there would be some
But if we
work.
went up there and decided to do some work, the system you're putting in, we would be
That's right.
easily be able to
That's right.
attach to or whatever
Yes.
That's right.
phraseology you want to use, we'd be able to make it work.
Absolutely. It's expand, you can expand into that space. It makes it feasible to expand into that space.
And we did just as a facilities team, separate from the Millig project, because we needed it done soon and they were so far down the road for HVAC on that project. We did just install a mini split unit on the third floor for offender services to just, because there wasn't really good regulated heating and cooling up there. So that is all new for that office space as of like 2 weeks ago.
Okay. So what do you need from us today?
It really just.
Was this just a presentation or you just?
So the next slide there, it's the second to last slide in the deck. So we are currently drafting a construction proposal that's a ESP. We are, like I said, we're working through the DES. They've assigned a project manager, Steve Bollinger. He does nothing but be essentially the owner's rep on these projects for public entities. So we will deliver that construction proposal to him about the end of this week, or maybe the beginning of next week. And then as soon as he has reviewed it, sometimes he has comments. It'll include all the inclusions, exclusions, all of the scope work. So he'll review all that. And then you guys will receive it with his approval. The next step will be to approve a funding authorization. So the funding authorization is for the total value of the project, the larger amount. And that initiates DES to draft the contracts. As the owner's rep on this project, they own the contracting authority. So they actually draft the contracts. Any contract disputes would be settled by DES, not by you all. And so DES then drafts the contracts. Then the contracts are delivered to the county to execute and for Millig to execute. So what you'll see is a request for funding approval. My target is your board meeting on the 16th, a week from today, to be able to have that exact number for you to review and do a funding approval, and then we can initiate the contracting process. We have 45 days, all of the bids that were received are good for 45 days. And we had, I just heard on my way up here, a reprieve, maybe temporary for some of the tariffs that are on there, but we are watching the tariffs closely. There's likely to be equipment cost increases coming out of those into the future. The sooner that, this is your project, you will do it on your timeline, but the sooner that we can get under contract, the sooner we can lock in pricing before any of those price increases come through. So that's something that we're watching closely. We would seek to be under contract in the beginning of May to order particularly the electrical components, the panel replacements. Those need to get built. They're the first thing that are gonna get, that's the first phase of work will be the electrical upgrades. So that is what is in front of you all. I'm happy, I can come back next week. We have a large report that we will get to you as well as the construction proposal. And we can answer more questions, but looking for that funding authorization.
Is that contract or funding authorization that you're gonna present to us have the options of replacing the framework for the tiles?
That's a great question. That's why we don't have it today.
And also the lighting,
And the lighting, yeah. So two things. One, we can always add additional scope through a change order if we need to get this done, so we can order equipment and make sure that we're not getting assessed tariffs on those, or we're not having a cost increase. We can move forward with the base project, and then we have, I don't have it directly in front of me, but maybe like a 16-week lead time on those panels. So we have a little bit of time to figure some stuff. If we need to execute the contract first, we have a little bit of time to figure out if you want to add a couple of things onto the project, which
Okay.
we can add on and still have plenty of time to figure that out. We won't start construction until September.
okay,
So we're looking to be under contract in May so we can order equipment, big lead time, long lead time equipment, and be ready to construct at the kind of the very end of August, beginning of September. If we need, so we have a little bit of time to finalize a few items that are beyond the base scope. But if we can agree on the base scope, we can get that under contract and get that material ordered.
I appreciate your efforts in creating urgency on the tariff thing. I felt like I was about ready to buy a new car there for a second.
We don't know what's gonna happen. If one thing is clear, it is that we don't know. So we're simply watching it, and it is a good thing to be aware of.
yeah. I mean, it's-
So the soonest
Minimal.
you'd start replacing the electrical panels that we're concerned about would be September?
That's right.
Have basically I'm gonna assume that this has already been done. The panel's been opened up and shot with a heat gun. We don't have any imminent problems that we know of.
We did a Core Electric, actually, we engaged them to do a full panel assessment to assess the feeder sizes going into and the condition of the panels. So I know we have done a specific walk with an electrician. I can ask about like a thermal heat gun if we did
Okay.
that. Yeah, to see if there's any hot spots or anything. Yeah. I know I have a photo of every.
Okay,
Okay, and that, unless the board has any other questions, that's all we have.
Thank you.
so we'll probably see dollar thing next week?
Yep, that's what we're shooting for. Mhm. And we'll
Okay.
try to get you all this information prior to then, so you can review and digest.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We'll move right along. I kept you waiting a little bit, Jennifer, but yeah, why don't we just move right along? Do you want to, you can figure out where you all want to sit?
I'll just be a second. Yeah, I don't care where anybody sits. I just, and Gina James, Health and Human Services, we had invited Housing Opportunities of Southwest Washington to come and share, sort of give an update on the Phoenix House project, be a good opportunity for new commissioners to learn more about it. And they have taken over a piece of that project in the last year and a half. And so we're just happy to have them here today to give us an update. So we'll get settled here. There's 2 mics here and 1 there. You just have to make sure the green light is on.
Yeah, I think and I probably was the driver of this, called this, because I remember when you took over Phoenix House, when you came in and did the presentation on it, I think you had some ideas that you wanted to explore over over there. And so that's what piqued my interest to kind of get an update and see how things were going. I know that the previous place was struggling and it really wasn't performing as to do what it was supposed to do. And you had some specific ideas to make that work. And so that's kind of what started this.
Perfect. I'm glad you remember that continuity. So good afternoon, all of you. My name is Jennifer Westerman. I'm the CEO of Housing Opportunities, and it's nice to meet the two new commissioners and good to see you again, Commissioner Dahl. I'm here actually to introduce the experts on this. So our Director of Operations, Katie Bonus, is going to start, and she's going to give you a background on the project, which she has seen for 6 years and knows pretty intimately. She leads our property management wing, and so has been involved in the project since its development. And after that, you'll hear from Rochelle Birch, who is currently our strategic planner, but prior to that was the supportive services manager that oversees these programs. I also have with me, just to observe, but if you guys would raise your hands. So Rhonda Compton is the supportive services manager. She manages our homeless veterans programs as well as supportive services for all of our projects that have services, including the Phoenix House. And then Bree Pfeiffer has been the manager for Phoenix House. She's moving on to a new job with us, but she's been doing a great job of managing Phoenix House and has really made some good changes. And behind Rhonda is Acacia. And Acacia is our services provider at Phoenix House. She's done a phenomenal job. So I think you'll be pleased to hear the new statistics and what a good job these guys have done with the changes. I think it's in better shape than it's been in years. So hand off to Katie.
I do have a flyer here for you, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you're really going to want to hear from Rochelle because you want to know about the services, but a little bit of history on Phoenix House. It was a collaboration between the Housing Authority and Drug Abuse Prevention Center back 2006, 2007. Gus Nolte, the then executive director of DAPC, came to the Housing Authority with this vision that he wanted to end or reduce the amount of children being born in Cowles County with drug addiction. And so through that collaboration, we came up with Phoenix House. So it originally opened in 2009, April of 2009. DAPC provided the services there, and then we provided the property management. There has been a little bit of turnover since then. DAPC, they merged with Cowles Family Health Center, who then provided the services. And then they ended their services, and we now do the services over there. So Phoenix House is 20 units of communal living. So there's 5 pods, and each pod has 4 bedrooms. And you'll see on the little flyer there that there's a site plan of the units. So there's a downstairs with 4 bedrooms, kitchen and living room. And then upstairs has 4 bedrooms and a common area. The residents rent the bedroom and the bathroom. So each bedroom has a full bathroom that goes with the bedrooms, and then they share the common areas of the kitchen and the living room. The design for the communal living was to help the families have support and self-awareness and accountability so that as they're all living together, they all have to be accountable to each other. So that was the big reason for the design of the communal living so that they could support each other. Services are on site so that people can access them anytime. Our service providers are on call 24/7, so they can come if there's an issue with anything. This particular project, it doesn't make a lot of money. So to build the Phoenix House, we ended up finding 10 different sources of funding. And in that funding is there's Kelso Home, Longview Home, and State Home. And if you don't know anything about home funding, residents can't pay more than 30% of their income for rent, towards rent. But on top of that, we are capped at how much rent we can charge to people. So Commerce sets the rents for us. There's a maximum allowable rent. So when you have people who are exiting an inpatient or outpatient treatment and they're on TANF, the amount of rent that we can collect from them is not very much. Sometimes it's like $170 a month. So this is one of those projects that HOSWA actually subsidizes. We try to fill the hole that is created by not being able to collect rents. We do receive an O&M grant, an operating and maintenance grant from the Department of Commerce, which helps with expenses, but it doesn't fill the hole completely. So it's definitely a project that HOSWA believes in, and we feel that we're making an impact in the community. And so that's why we continue to do what we do, and we'll continue to subsidize it as best we can to keep it up and running. And that's kind of the history of.
Do you have any, we hear a lot, I just sat on a Zoom meeting and they were talking about, it wasn't talking about housing, but it was talking about health and human services and the funding cuts coming on that and what the state's seeing. Do you have concerns with that from your programs? Are you seeing any of that?
We always have concerns, but.
Yeah.
So far, we haven't heard.
Haven't
the-
seen or.
The particular
Okay.
one that help funds Phoenix House, we have not heard that that's going to get cut. So it's definitely not as flush as it used to be. So it's a 20-year grant that we reapply for every year, but it's supposedly guaranteed for 20 years. The very first year that we got it, they gave us a lot of money. And then I think over the years, they figured out, well, we promised 20 years worth of funding. And now we're running out of funding, or we have a lot of other projects that we funded. And so I think just the scarcity of the funding has caused while we get it every year, we don't get enough to fill the hole in our budget. So we've definitely seen some impacts over the years of reduced funding, but they are still funding it.
You said you're limited on what you can charge for rent because of the people that help you build it.
Correct.
And that's forever and ever, amen. It doesn't
Correct.
have an end date like after 20 years or
Correct.
anything like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you guys limited to what sources of funding you can use? Or are you actively searching for more resources?
So as far as operations, yeah, I suppose we could look for some other funding sources. It just adds to the complexity of the already complex 10 funding sources. But again, we've been subsidizing the whole by the agency. The agency fills that hole, so.
We've talked about a couple of different things to change the makeup of the project, and so far we haven't landed on a solution for how it was designed. And so far we've been able to cover it. The hole hasn't been so great, so it's still on the list of a future rework. So shall we hand off to Rochelle, or you have more questions?
Yeah, I was just curious of what you expect of the families in there. How do we move them through the process? And that's probably where you're headed.
So we do
okay.
have another flyer for you. I apologize for not getting it set in digitally. However, if I could pick up where Katie left off, you'll see in the orange box here on this flyer, it does talk about what that cash flow is at Phoenix House and what HOSWA has to subsidize, and that monthly average operating income that HOSWA covers. So last year, when we come to speak with you guys, we were awarded approximately $133,000 for the services and the operation. And so with that, we were also
the changes we were also able to make is to open the property up to men and their children. Phoenix House is historically known for housing women and children.
I met the gentleman the other day. I was down visiting a place and met the
Yes.
gentleman that is
Yes, he
the
works-
first man in there with his child. Yeah.
And it has just been so successful. I'm glad you had an opportunity to talk with him. You know, every gentleman that has come into that property has just been so grateful that there's now a resource, a local resource for men and their families. Your goal at Phoenix House and the services is to close that gap between the homelessness and permanent housing and offer the services and the independent living skills that they really desire and that they need in that direction. And so having our case manager on site really provides that to them, that support and just daily activities. You know, we have, as you'll see in the square box here, there were 163 referrals that our case manager made in the last year to community resources, whether that's cooking classes, parenting classes, you know, credit classes, all of those, you know, really important skills. And of those 163, our residents there accessed those referrals 107 times. And so that just shows, you know, the amount of trust and, you know, work that our residents are putting in to build their success and towards their economic mobility and being self-sufficient. So another great part of Phoenix House, you know, we're offering them a safe, stable, affordable environment that they can reconnect with their families. We've had 5 DCYF cases that, you know, they came to our program with the requirement that they had services to regain their children, and their cases have been closed. 7 children have been reunited with their parents, and things are just gone really, really well since we got into Phoenix House last year.
So are these referrals that you're making, are they part of a program to help people with some upward mobility within their jobs? Because if you're capped at 30% of what they're making, I would say that you want to find ways to increase their income so you're getting a
Yeah.
higher.
Phoenix House is permanent supportive housing, so there isn't a requirement for them, for residents to move out when they exceed that income, but it's definitely encouraged for them to offer an opportunity to another family. You know, we work with them on career building. You know, our referrals could be for work source, job readiness, whatever it might be. And then the one-on-one coaching with their case manager for them to increase their income and, you know, decrease that dependability on subsidies. And they, you know, you find that they want to move forward. They want to get out of the congregate setting once they've got that confidence and those skills that they know they can be successful with.
Is part of your program helping them find housing outside of Phoenix House when
Of
they move
course.
forward?
Yeah. And so Hoswa, we manage, was it 444 other, you know, entity locations. And so it may be that a resident, you know, they may qualify for other subsidies and they're just ready to move out of a congregate setting, or they've increased their income enough that they are working and able to afford those rents on their own. And they can work with their case manager on site. We also have a rent success coordinator in our services department who teaches a rent well education course. And what that is it goes over landlord tenant laws, what tenants' rights and responsibilities are, just how to talk to your landlord and be a good tenant. And so our Phoenix House residents have access to that course as well. Our facilitator goes on site and teaches them those skills and helps with that housing search when they're ready for it.
I know that prior to us taking on the services, I used to hear from Katie fairly frequently about the waiting list not moving, nobody ever moving out, people really getting stuck in there. And you can see that 7 families have moved out of Phoenix House in the last year and moved on to other housing. I think that speaks to the success of the new services that we're doing.
I know that was one of your goals
Mhm.
to come in and see, so I appreciate seeing that you're tracking that and you are meeting some of that and moving them on. And that's the only way to help others is for others that have been helped to move on, so. I wish we had easier housing to get into in our county. I think my personal opinion, a lot of it's out of our control. We're hit with a lot of regs that make it expensive, but
We are working on that too, and you do
Yeah.
have an invitation in your email inbox for a grand opening on June 10th
yeah.
for our newest
I-
complex, and I hope to see you all there.
I have it down.
Great.
Go over and see it.
You know, obviously there's some intangibles that are hard to monetize, but do you have somewhat of an idea as to what it cost, like the 7 families that moved out for the tenure that they were there, what it cost for each family to go through the program to become independent?
I don't think we have that now, but we could try and calculate it. We'd have to see what the average stay was
Mhm.
and calculate it that way. The services are, for us taking the services is fairly new, so it's been about a year.
Yeah.
And I really do think there's been a significant change. Much more active services and more responsiveness. So data for the last year, we could see how long they'd stay, but I think they'd be a little bit skewed just because of the change in services and the difference from before. Things were really pretty static before.
We do have the tracking in place that we can gather that data, like Jennifer said. And I want to point out the couple of quotes that are on here too, that we got from some current residents. I think that just really shows their motivation and what Phoenix House is providing to them. The fact that we've had 7 families move into their own independent housing in the last year, and that just wasn't happening prior to, really speaks to what Phoenix House is providing and building their confidence. We had one come to us just a couple of days ago, with their own plan, their own crisis plan. They're building the tools to know what's needed in their success. And they're proud that they're gaining this employment as case managers to reach back out and help their peers in the community and offer that opportunity to more individuals.
We could try and get those numbers for our next report in a year. Then we'd have 2 years of data to show.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see that you're not only willing to track those things, but if you look at your monthly operating income is negative, if you can come to the point where you understand what it costs to get one individual family through the program, that might help with some of the budgeting and things like that. But I think it's great that that the program isn't sitting static anymore, because oftentimes with a lot of nonprofits, they just exist and wait for the grant money to come back in as they ask for it. And you guys are actually working towards being results oriented, which is good.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's our intention.
Anything else?
Okay.
Any burning questions from audience? It is an open public meeting. Okay, well, we appreciate you coming in. We enjoy having these workshops and these updates, and I think it gives not only us, keeps us educated on how things are moving. It helps keep the people in the county, if they're paying attention, they have an opportunity to know what's going on and where their money's going. So we always appreciate you coming in and doing these things for us.
Thanks for having us, and I'll be back to see you. I've got a new project I'm working.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
And we've really appreciated the opportunity to get in there and provide the services. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, thank you for participating. We will adjourn. Thank you.